Hello, everybody, and welcome into today's episode of the Top Cut Yu-Gi-Oh podcast. My name is Sunny. I am here, of course, with my co-host.
Hello, everybody. It is me, the Caleb.
And of course, we want to start the episode off strong. We want to go ahead and do our patron shoutouts. So, a huge thank you, of course, to Austin Johnson, Kane Martin, Myth Oceanus, Pig, Scuzz Daddy, A.D. Aaron Gardner, Anthony Leela, Damian Zink, Mountain Man, Owen Alvarado, Jeremy Drysdale, Ray Powell, and Sunny Sweet. Thank you all so much for your continued support of the podcast. If you want to get your name in that shout out and support the podcast, you can find the link to our Patreon in the description below. We also want to, of course, ask you to please follow us on Twitter for awesome quick reactions, be in the know on when things are happening quicker, and of course join our Discord for even quicker even quicker news. Be sure to join our Discord. You can talk to us there. We have a great marketplace where people can trade and get stuff, sell stuff, whatever you need to do. We have great different channels for talking about everything from Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta discussion, alternate format discussion. You can talk about off-topic things. We have anime, sports, books, video games. We have channels for everything. Come in, hang out, and we appreciate you coming in. But more than anything, we do appreciate you listening to today's episode of the podcast. And we have a special guest here today with us. So, Mr. Benji, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Benji. I'm a Yugi tuber. I have a channel called Legacy Crusaders where I do how to plays and ruling videos. How to plays are just I bring on someone who knows how to play a deck. They tell me what to do over a few games on YGO Pro. I do what they say, and I try and do what you, the audience, might want to do and ask the questions that anyone who doesn't know how to play the deck would do. So people tell me what to do. I ask questions. We make plays, and we play a few matches. Wow, I did this really awkwardly. We play a few matches, and I try and ask questions that you might have while getting some in-game live decision making. I've done a bunch of these with a whole bunch of people you may have seen before: MBT, Pack, Aerosol TCG. I'm doing one with soon. 037 Wolf, the synchro guy. We'll be doing one soon. So those are always popping up all the time.
Are there any in particular that you would recommend? Any archetypes, maybe any particular videos that you think are maybe even really relevant right now?
Relevant right now, I haven't done anything other than Floowanderees recently for the current meta decks. I'm still looking on getting people for Sword Soul, and what else is being played now? Oh, I did Phantom Knights recently, but it was prior to the DPE thing coming out. So there are always updates coming out when new decks come out, new cards come out. Redo old videos. I have like pretty popular videos on like how Inspector Border works and goes in match, Rivalry of the Warlords, Magical Meltdown. People have no idea how that works. Yeah, so there's like a lot of videos like that on my channel you can find all over the place.
Gotcha. So that will lead us a little bit into today's discussion and today's main segment. So this episode will be releasing on the Friday before the Remote Duel YCS. So episode will release on December the 10th, which is either right at or right after maybe the deadline to register for the Remote Duel YCS. So we wanted to take this time devote to talking about the Remote Duel YCS and trying to give all of our listeners the best opportunity, if they're participating in the YCS, to really understand the meta and know what's going on. Now, what I will say is, if you're participating in an event the size of a YCS, sure, it's always good to enter events to get a feel for playing in competitive play. But I would say that if you don't have a great handle on the meta, you're maybe making sure your Remote Duel setups are good, getting a feel for your deck, I might recommend participating in these side events. There will be multiple win of cards, there will be multiple win of mats, there will be structure deck challenges, things of that sort, which are all wonderful learning resources and learning tools, and you do not have to enter the main event to participate in those side events. In addition to that, I would say that if you're participating in the main event, you probably need to already have a better handle on the meta than listening to a podcast the day before the event. But maybe if you're already fairly in tune with the meta, know a lot about what's going on, but maybe you've been busy for the last week or two, you haven't seen maybe the newest developments or things like that. We're going to try to bring you up to speed and to make sure that you're going into this as prepared as you can possibly be. Because at the end of the day, it can't hurt to have extra information. Maybe you're really in tune with the meta and there's just like one thing that happened at a regional this past weekend that maybe you missed. So more information is almost never a bad thing, in my opinion anyway.
Not at all.
So
Yeah, the more you know, the better you can do.
exactly. Now, I will say we also don't know everything about the meta. This will not be a perfect representation of what you can expect to see. This will not be a perfect description of the YCS and what will happen, because at the end of the day, we just don't know. We could go into this YCS and 8 of the top 32 could be Madolche. We don't know. Listen, I'm not saying it's a bad deck. I'm not saying that. But I would doubt very seriously if that happened. But I'm just saying absolutely insane things could happen at any point. So take what we say with a bit of a grain of salt, but understand that we're saying the things we say to try to help prepare people for this tournament. And like I said, any prep is better than no prep. So, and also this may or may not also be a refresher for me because I've been really busy the last couple of weeks. So, but thank you everybody for being here. Let's talk a little bit about the YCS. So this will be a remote duel event happening this weekend on December 11th and 12th. Now, they'll play out all of day 1 and all of day 2 up through top 32. So once they get to top 16, though, they're going to end the event, and top 16 will take place the weekend after YCS Pasadena. So we won't actually have a winner determined for a little while, but we will have some kind of we'll have something to gauge to understand what's been successful. So without further ado, I'm going to throw it to you two because I've been talking a lot. I'm going to throw it to the two of you, and I'm going to ask each of you to give me a different deck that you think will be maybe either highly represented or, if not highly represented, have a large impact on the tournament itself.
Okay.
Probably Lyrilisk Tri-Brigade. I feel like that board is so solid.
I was about to say, and not only is that board super solid, if your opponent isn't able to out the, depending on which board you have, like you end on the
What's the board mostly? It's Apex Avian behind a Samorg with a Utopic Draco Future.
And like a 3 to 4 material ensemble.
Double Dragon Lords and potentially in graveyard the Spell Trap Negate, the
Oath.
Tri-Brigade Oath. That's
Yeah.
that's just too many cards to cover, and like no hand trap is like good enough to actually stop the board from being made. I feel like you need to like have 2, and they have to be like really high impact, like Nib and like something. I don't know. That board's just
probably
really crazy.
like a Veil or Imperm for their Tri-Brigade effect.
Yeah, but like the issue with Nib though is that Nib doesn't really do enough, particularly if they open up with basically Fractal plus Cobalt Sparrow, because even if you Nib right when you can Nib, they'll still get a search off on top of that, plus all the searching they've already done.
Yeah, so you have to be kind of careful about where exactly you do it.
But the issue though is that there's one spot. There are two summons where you can nib them. The summon of the second Exceed monster to stop that search, but then they'll still get a search because then they're just going to immediately detach to get 2 searches, and then overlay into Draco, which if you don't nib there, they have F-Zero Utopic Draco Future to stop the nib at that point.
So I guess Nib and like a Veiler or an Imperm should also be able to break the board at the very end, I guess.
Yeah, but even then, it's kind of crusty because the point is relying on multiple hand traps is just kind of, well, like I said, it's kind of crusty.
And then something else that I haven't seen anybody talk about. People are probably talking about. I just don't realize it. Is that if your opponent isn't out the Smorg and they're in phase, you can special summon Celestine Wagtail and search Bird Strike.
Yeah,
and then just immediately Bird Strike
and Dark Ruler, basically.
Just Dark Ruler your opponent that you just searched out.
Right. I think that specifically the Lyrilush Tri-Brigade deck is a really interesting choice going into this tournament because as good as that deck is, I don't think people are necessarily... Okay, I'm going to say this, people are going to think I'm crazy. I don't think that deck is getting as much discussion and as much hype as some other decks in the format. Specifically, when you think about the format and the way people are talking about it, people are talking a lot about things like Sword Soul or even Fluandereeze because they're newer.
Mhm.
But
They're shinier.
Right. Don't let a deck like Bird Up surprise you because if it's not the best deck in the current format, it's the second or third best. It really is a very, very good deck. So it's not to be underestimated. So
Sword Soul's been on a slight decline recently, right? I think like prices have been dropping. People have been moving it a little bit. I think it's not as auto win as people thought it might be at the beginning. Not that it's
Right.
bad in any way.
I also don't know necessarily that the build is completely figured out. I think that Sword Soul has room to grow.
I mean,
personally.
part of that is because it is so new. I mean, because there might be like this one little card somewhere hidden in someone's basement that they go through the stuff, rediscover, and be like, wait, this is stupid in Sword Soul.
That card was Arch Nemesis Protos.
There you go.
That card was Arch Nemesis Protos. So Protos is really a crazy card. For those that don't know, Arch Nemesis Proto says, cannot be normal summon set. Must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing 3 monsters with different attributes from your graveyard and or face-up field. Cannot be destroyed by card effects. You can declare 1 monster attribute on the field. Destroy all monsters on the field with that attribute. Also, until the end of the next turn, neither player can special summon monsters with that attribute. You can only use this effect once per turn. So, essentially, what you can do is you can banish 3 worms. It doesn't have to be worms. Wow. It can just be 3 monsters with different attributes from your graveyard or face-up field and summon him. And he is a worm, so he is searchable within the deck. So, being able to just go straight into this guy, it's really good. Searching him out, going into it, and being able to lock your opponent out of a mechanic, especially if your opponent's playing a deck like Bird Up or something of the sort where they're all wind or whatever. It's really good.
It's really good against all dark decks like Phantom Knights because Protoss itself is dark, so you can always declare dark whether or not you have other monsters on the field. You can call wind if you have the Baron de Fleur on the field to stop the bird deck. And you can also call, what's the other one that's usually on the field? You can call Light and just stop Drytron. The deck has like 2 main deck win conditions versus Drytron, between Protoss calling Light to pop the Chizao or going into Chow Fang with Abaxia and Adhara.
Yeah, you can even go into like a Draco Berserker and do dark. You can go into Adamancipator Risen Dragite and do water.
Should you need to.
Yeah, I mean, you really do have like a lot of options.
Is there any attribute that isn't mained in the deck already?
Fire would be kind of difficult to get to.
Okay.
You'd have to like keep your Long Young on the field. He's dark, right? He's fire, right?
Actually, yeah, you're right.
Never mind.
Earth would be difficult to get to, but what all Earth decks are you seeing these days?
It isn't Longwan Earth?
He's fire.
He's fire.
Because he burns.
I'm sure some of the Tenyis must be if you leave the Monk on the field.
Maybe?
Monk is Earth. No, wait. Yeah, Monk is
no,
Earth.
It is. Yeah, it
Shaman's
is.
fire.
Shaman's fire, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because like the only Earth deck I know of is Medolce.
Wow, this deck literally hits every attribute. That's crazy.
Protoss is just a crazy card, and just the fact that you can search it in this deck with like any card in the deck is why it's so broken. You know, every card goes into Chizao. Chizao searches Emergence, I think, is the one that searches cards. And
Yes.
Yeah.
if you control a synchro, you can search any worms. And just in the process of doing the combos, you tend to get 3 different attributes in the graveyard through the Tenyi plays at least.
Right. Because I mean, the Tenyis are all different. I mean, the Tenyis and the Sword Soul monsters are all different attributes. So
Yeah, but I mean, just summoning this, like even just like going second and then going through your combo and then summoning this thing, it forces a response.
right.
But just by its very nature of existence.
Yeah.
Which is actually amazing, especially if you follow it up with after hitting your opponent with a kaiju monster. Not necessarily the kaijus, but a kaiju-like.
Right.
Kaiju, lava golem, sphere mode, volcanic queen. If you're running her.
Whatever.
Yeah. I'd personally call the whole class monster the kaijus. Yeah, like if you kaiju your opponent, they get rid of one, that gets rid of one negate, and then you just pop, pop, pop. That forces another negate if they have it.
Sword Soul mostly just plays like Droplet, and they try and out things with their own cards, right? I think they play evenly. There's like a going second version of the deck. There's like a Tenyi version. There's some versions that are playing more pure, but they also like play Phoenix Enforcer,
Right.
which like
Well,
combos with Ecclesia.
I was just about to say, yeah, the pure version is interesting because it does combo with Ecclesia. So, but personally, I found in my builds that the pure version is really rough because you run into a shortage of worm monsters. And sometimes it's just good to have worms to reveal for Mo Yi and banish for Tai and discard for Long Wan. And it's just, there's too much synergy there to ignore, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think another
So-
card they were recently like testing is like the Heavenly Dragon Circle.
I've never even heard of that card.
It's a 10E card where you tribute a worm, and if it was a vanilla, you can special summon a worm from your deck, and it
Oh,
negates
that's
the
right.
effect.
That's right.
I think it's
Yeah.
used to play around certain types of cards. I'm not sure exactly which ones, but it seems pretty cool.
Yeah, so if your opponent activates, for example, you normal summon Tai, activate Tai, banish a worm, and your opponent activates something like Effect Veiler, you can chain Heavenly Dragon Cycle, tribute your Tai, search a Long Wand, and still have your still have your token.
Oh, I think you tribute the Tai to add or special like Zathana, the water Tenyi.
Oh yeah,
And then it goes in with the token into the Chizao. So that's some of the reasons they
true.
play
Yeah.
the water
Yeah,
one
and you can have
sometimes.
your token and your synchro too with that.
Yes. Have your
Yeah.
cake and eat it too, for sure. So we got the we talked about Bird Up with Benji. Was there a deck specifically that you wanted to mention, Caleb, or was Sword Soul the deck?
Let's see. Bird Up, Sword Soul. I mean, those are the two main ones that I think are going to do incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to be seeing Drytron as it's always just going to be there,
Right.
just in the background.
Yeah, you got to respect it a little bit. If you just let it go first and just lose the dice roll and don't play Droll, you're just going to lose.
Yeah.
At
I
least
do
there's a
think
deck
that-
around to keep it in check.
I think it's really interesting though that how much Drytron has seemingly fallen off in the meta, because, in my opinion anyway, it's still a pretty good deck. I mean, it's not quite as impressive as it was 3 months ago, but still really good.
Oh yeah, no, that it's still a very impressive deck. I think it's because I think part of its downfall now is entirely to do with the whole more people are probably running stuff specifically for Drytron, so people are rolling back on playing Drytron for now.
I think it's not even that. I think it's less that. I think Drytron being less prevalent in the meta is making people play less things for Drytron.
That's
But
fair.
when you think about the boards being made, people are just. I mean, let's look at the current format. You've got Bird Up making boards like we described earlier, with double Dragon Lords, with the maybe even a barrier statue or whatever, or Apex Avian rather. It's probably Apex Avian actually. So like Apex Avian, double Dragon Lords, on some Blue Robin, and Utopic Draco Future,
And a Karis, but
and probably a Samorg, honestly too.
yeah, wait, the Smorg Link, and then like a Karis just chilling.
Right. So
Yeah, just have that beast on the field.
Yep. Yeah. So with all of that, that's a big impressive board. And that's not even counting whether or not they have an awesome Blue Robin. So you've got that. You've got Sword Soul making boards of Baron, Chi Zhao, maybe another one, maybe a Protos, whatever.
Maybe a Blackout.
Right.
Maybe
And then
a
you've got-
Dragoon. Not a Dragoon. Maybe a DP.
Right. Then you've got decks like Drytron building their usual board. So when you have all of these board breaker decks, it causes a format where people are already running extra dark. They're running their dark rulers, they're running their droplets, they're running this, they're running that, and they're running everything specifically for these giant build-a-board decks. And I think that with the Eva to 1 and Ben 10 being at 1 still, kind of causes a situation where Drytron is just being kind of hit by proxy. You know, they're being sided against because people are siding against for these other decks, and it just makes things more difficult for them. So that might be something to do with it. It's not something that I've ever really thought about before, literally just now, but that's what would make sense to me anyway.
Well, I don't know how much people are that concerned about the one EVA thing. I know the boards have changed up a bit. Some of them are on like a Scythe package. Scythe DPE is pretty popular in both Drytron and Phantom Knights. So that's like one of the board states that they have now. There's been a couple of boards that have been making Beatrice to mill Imperial Order and then going into like Aurora Dawn, summoning tokens and setting Imperial Order from the graveyard.
Right.
Because then they can like use their Herald of Ultimateness for like 2 monster negates and then also have Imperial Order for all the spells.
Right. The thing that's interesting to me is how much of the Dagda Scythe DPE we'll see. Because when you really think about it, it's very good, but in certain situations, does it take away from what else you could possibly have on your end board by having to link up into the site, into the Dagda?
I feel like PK doesn't make Appaloosa so much anymore.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
But also, did they ever really need Appaloosa? There's already like 2 Fogblades on board. They used to have to choose between like going Verte or a bigger Appaloosa with like the Utopic Draco Future.
Right. So now, instead of going Appaloosa, they can just have their Fog Blades, and they can go into Dagda, set a Scythe, and then go into a Verte and have DPE.
They also get like 2 shots at popping the Scythe.
Right.
Because they trying to like pop it the first time with the Rusty Bardish using Breaksword.
Yeah.
Then I think they can use DPE to pop they can pop it with DPE. And I think there's like a weird play where you can pop the Dagda, which also works.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, there's also, have you heard about the DD Crow play on Drytron? Another reason people might not play Drytron.
No, what are you talking about?
So when they summon Enforcer and they activate its effect to destroy itself, and they activate the effect to summon it during the next turn, if
Yeah.
you just DD Crow the Enforcer, they're forced to resolve the DPE, and they have to summon one of the hero bricks.
Yeah.
And if they do, they can't activate any Drytrons on the following turn
Oh, that's true. I hadn't even considered that.
because they're all normal summonable monsters, and they get special summons, so they get locked out of summoning Drytrons if you manage to play like DD Crow or Called by at like a good moment against that deck.
That's true. Also, this is a very funny tech that I am stealing from a streamer, and I'm running it because it's very cool. I'm taking one Monster Reborn.
In your Sword Soul deck?
In whatever deck I end up playing, because I'm still undecided. So, but probably Sword Soul, yeah. So I understand that they already have the Sword Soul Sacred Summit, but Monster Reborn specifically causes basically that interaction with DPE if they don't specifically use it on Scythe. Because I think Scythe locks you out of special summoning or only from the extra deck.
Scythe locks you out of the extra deck.
So if they use the Scythe, if they use DPE, I can Monster Reborn, bring back their DPE. As long as I keep it until their turn, they're forced to summon back like a Dasher or Celestial or something, and then they can't get the Celestial effect.
Oh, if they summon the Dasher, they can just let it die and then use Celestial.
I mean, yeah, they could, but then they still have to get it back to the graveyard, you know?
Yeah.
And then I gain a free interruption on my next turn.
Yeah, it's always unfortunate though having your opponent's DPE because the moment they kill it, they get it back, which is always upsetting.
Yeah, but I mean, better to get some use out of it myself than let them just get the constant use out of it, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm sure there's scenarios where you can't lose with the DPO on the field, even if it's not yours and you're not destroying it itself.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good card either way. So, um, a deck that I think we might see a good amount of that I don't know that everybody will be prepared to see. I think Virtual World is still a very real deck. I think it's still a lot better than people realize. And yes, it does have a tendency to be a little bit bricky, but that's fine because it's still really good.
I know if they don't brick, you're gonna have a rough time, buddy.
Right
Yeah.
now, my virtual world video is like my most watched video in terms of like recent views. Like people are really looking at it. I feel like people were waiting for the reprints from the tins to pick it up for some reason. Not sure why. It was never that expensive of a deck, but
Right.
I mean, I think the
everyone's been
Lulus
looking
were
at it.
expensive. That's about it.
Lulus were like 15 to 20, but I mean,
Yeah,
now they're
well,
like 5.
and you could have picked up the rest of the deck for pennies. And now even the Lulus are pennies.
Right.
It's essentially a budget deck. I don't think anything in there is particularly expensive.
Um, if you're doing the Dragoon package,
I don't think anyone actually plays it anymore. I feel like most people are on Kaliga.
yeah. But I mean, I think that's like the only card in the entire deck that's expensive is if you're running literally Dragoon because you can fusion summon it with a Muddy Mud Dragon.
Yeah. So that's some of the decks that we're looking forward to seeing. I mean, those aren't the only decks you're going to see, obviously, but you'll also see Phantom Knights. You might see some Hero. Um, but I mean, realistically, the top 32 will probably be like 10 plus different decks, right?
Easily.
Striker with DPE's been played a bit. Dragons
Yeah.
is still playable, although I think Dragons have some bad matchups this format.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Dragons are probably the best mid range deck in the format. But when you look at the decks building the boards that they're currently building, it's kind of crusty.
Crustier than a restaurant that
I don't know where you're going with this analogy.
Me neither.
I was going to make a SpongeBob reference and it didn't work.
Gotcha.
Crustier than restaurants under the sea.
Yeah.
So
Crustier than the Krusty Krab. Arr.
Invoke Dogmatica might see a lot of play. A lot of people didn't have access to Dogmatica cards before.
that's
Suddenly
very
they do.
true. And not only that, people do love normal summoning Alistair. But I think the real thing to watch out for with that deck is DPE sends that deck over the top. That deck is actually like insane with DPE, in my opinion, anyway. I think DPE is everything that deck was missing.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I mean, it definitely helps having just like it's like a really good deck to just like activate Fusion Destiny. You know, Magical Meltdown. You can't negate this. Especially since, you know, hard drawing the card is actually so good now compared to like Red Eyes Fusion where you can't draw the card, you draw the card, everything gets messed up.
Right, right.
Um,
So I'm going to take just a quick moment here to give a quick word from our sponsor. So we are going to say a huge thank you to ETB Games in Alexandria, Louisiana for sponsoring the podcast. We are, of course, having our ETB Battle City Day here at the shop on December the 18th. So that will be 8 days from the time of this release. If you are anywhere within a 3 to 4 hour drive, please come check it out. You can always hit up Caleb or myself to, hit up Caleb or myself to get the address to come check it out and come see. If you're not within 3 to 4 hours, be sure to check out the TCG player link I'm sorry, it won't be a TCG player. It'll be the ETB store link in the description down below. They do sponsor our podcast. They're very cool. They're a wonderful place to get all of your whatever you need. Singles, sleeves, accessories. You can get D&D books. They have a huge figurines and tabletop support system there. You can get Magic, Pokemon, whatever you need. they can help you out. So check out ETB Games in Alexandria, Louisiana for all of your nerdy hobby needs, basically. So past this, I do want to talk a little bit about some of these specific cards and techs that we might see in this event. So specifically, I think that, like we've discussed already quite a bit, I think DPE is the card of choice. I think Dragoon has just been completely phased out, as crazy as that sounds. I'm not saying you won't see a Dragoon. I mean, it's still a very good Yu-Gi-Oh card. In the eyes of many people, Dragoon is still better than DPE.
I mean, it's an Omni Negate versus a pop.
Well, I mean, it's an Omni Negate with potential pop 2 burn for a gajillion damage.
Then also get Big Body on board to Gorilla Fist.
Yeah, it can be a 1-card OTK. It's pretty wild sometimes.
It absolutely can be. Trust me, I know it happened to me last weekend. So, Dragoon is still a very good Yu-Gi-Oh card, and I'm not saying you won't see it. Don't go in there saying, I'm not gonna play Dragoon. Dragoon's bad. Because that's just false. There will be people there playing Dragoon.
Those of you who say that are probably going to get slapped by a Dragoon.
At some point. More than likely, yes.
For your hubris.
So, be on the lookout for Dragoon, but I would say that DPE is probably the more prevalent card that you'll see at the event itself. Because, guess what? It's still really good. So,
and it's new.
It is still very new, yes. So, be on the lookout for DPE, and specifically, when you see your opponent going into a Dagda and you have a Veiler in hand, maybe think about that. Because getting Scythe locked, it's not fun.
Unless you're literally flow under ease, in which case you kind of don't care.
Yeah, if you're playing flow under ease at the event,
let them resolve the Scythe. Let them think they're doing something.
Yeah, it'll be funny. So, what are some other cards past DPE that the two of you are looking to see teched into at this event? Maybe something that you're not really anticipating a lot of people to be expecting when they're playing the event.
Smart World.
Smart World is a good Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Yeah,
keep in mind that
Go ahead.
So keep in mind that if you activate Small World, you can Ash it.
Yep.
There is no cost involved in that card.
True.
If you Ash it, they don't reveal anything. Nothing gets banished. It just immediately goes to the graveyard, and that's the end of the chain.
So, that would be something to look out for. What were you saying a second ago, Ben?
Nothing in particular. Just that the card's really solid. Added a lot of starters to a lot of decks. I think Tri Brigade Lyrilusk are on it. Medulce, I heard, had that successful. I don't know. It was a regional top.
Yeah, I got first at a regional.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen it more than once now.
Yeah, I mean it's really good at Medulce.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think right before I came over to Sunny's to record, I saw a TCG Player article where they were mentioning 4 decks that can abuse Small World.
What were they?
I don't know because I didn't actually read the article, but in the picture they had a Medulce card, they had a Magellan and Nerval.
Well, I mean that covers the decks we talked about,
and also the Sea Lancer Dragoon.
Sea Lancer Dragoon.
It's not the name of it. Atlantean Dragoons.
Oh, Atlantean Dragoons?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess Mermail could abuse that card. Like the Mermail generic water deck?
I guess.
The deck, though, that I saw that abused it, that I thought was really cool, was Farfa built an Adamancipator deck running it.
Oh, because they're all rocks with different stats.
Nib gets you into everything in that deck.
Yeah, because it's a rock.
Yes.
And it's light and like a high level with weird
Yes.
stats compared to everything else. So yeah, it's a good connector.
Yep. So you can grab one of your like random rock cards because you run like 13 like Kawakimaru Guardians, Kawakimaru Suppliers, Doki Doki, whatever. You can reveal one of those, reveal Nibiru from the deck, and get into one of your tuners.
Just literally grab whatever other rock monster in the deck you want at that point.
Pretty much, yeah. It's really good. Also, you're main decking Nibiru, so if you go second, bam, drop a rock on them.
Yeah, and of course you're running multiples, so you still have the one in your hand.
Right. So Nibiru is a great in between in Adamancipator for that. So Um,
Kind of like it's similar to Pankratops as in between and Medolce.
yeah, it's an Earth with nothing else in common. It just works for everything. So, Small World is a good choice. Ben, is there a card in particular that you're looking at that you're like, you could definitely see this card?
Oh yeah, the new King of the Sky prison thing is pretty or whatever it's called. Lord of this
I'm
heavenly prison.
so glad that you brought that up. Yes, Lord of the Heavenly Prison is insane.
I think I
We
just
didn't talk
saw.
about Elditch at all, but that deck's good.
Oh yeah, you could put it in Eldritch. That card can go in
Poltergeist?
Guru, no problem.
Yeah.
You just activate a trap on your opponent's turn, set Extrav on the next turn. I feel like it's pretty common.
So I'm gonna read that card for those that don't know what it does, because this card's insane. So it's a level 10 Dark Rock effect monster, 3000 attack, 3000 defense. During your main phase, you can activate this effect. This card in your hand becomes revealed until the end of your opponent's turn. While this card is revealed by this effect, set cards on the field cannot be destroyed by card effects. If a spell trap card is activated, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then, if you activated this effect while this card was revealed, you can reveal and set one spell trap directly from your deck, but banish it during the end phase of the next turn. You can only use one Lord of the Heavenly Prison effect per turn and only once that turn. But this card is insane, and like we said, Eldritch, Altergeist, Trap BA, just any number of decks, really.
I just played against Trap Tricks earlier today. They activated it and they set what is it? Fusion Destiny from their deck.
Oh, man.
So that was pretty cool. I played against some guy live. He was on like a Lair of Darkness build, and he used it. He used it to set like an Extrav on the next turn, but he also used it because it's like a high level. It's a high attack dark monster, and he was playing Eradicator Epidemic Virus.
Right.
Oh,
So that was like a blowout.
yeah.
He also used his DPE for Eradicator also.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that deck plays like Back to the Front and other cards that might just revive a random dark monster. So giving up DPE for Eradicator was always worth it for him.
Right. So I think Lord of the Heavenly Prison is a great call right there. That card is so strong. And really, it brings us back to I would love to talk about Eldritch for a minute. The Eldritch deck is another one to look out for in this event. That I mean, you could be looking at an Eldritch deck running like 2 Golden Lords, or maybe 3, whatever. 2 Lord of the Heavenly Prison, like 1 or 2 Ecclesias, and then just trap cards. Run 3 Extravagance, whatever else you feel like you need.
Fill your X deck with a bunch of whatever.
Yeah, I mean, probably run. Um, I think there's some cards that so you can run like punishment and stuff. And if you're running something like Tri Brigade Ferjit, you can punishment and send Ferjit to the graveyard.
Draw one and then put one on bottom.
Right, and it helps filter your deck.
Wind Pegasus add an Ignister for a pop.
Right. So having punishment in that deck is really versatile and really worth using. So that's a great call, Benji. I didn't even think to mention. I like before the podcast, I was like, oh yeah, I want to talk about Eldritch. Nah, I totally forgot. That's a good call right there.
Yeah, I've definitely had a lot of trouble dealing with that card. It kind of blanks Lightning Storm a lot, and kind of making Evenly like a
Yeah.
better call currently. Because every deck is affected by Evenly to some extent.
Right.
But Evenly just blanks your own battle phase, so you got to choose what you want to be blanked on.
So,
But
do you think that if you're specifically siding back row hate for back row decks, would that be like a major factor that plays into your decision? Is maybe instead of running lightning storms, if you have them run evenlies, or instead of running twin, you might run cosmic.
I'm definitely on Evenly currently, just as a side option, just because um, it plays around like Imperial Order. So if it's like a trap deck that's on Imperial Order, you don't have to worry about running into IO or the Heavenly Prison.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Cosmic's a card I've kind of given up on a long time ago. With the exception of Eldritch, where you actually deal with the card on a more permanent basis, I've never really cared enough to play Cosmic over like a twin. I think more coverage is often just more required than banishing a card.
Right.
I do wonder if people start playing Lancia out evenly because it's so recently people going to battle phase all of a sudden for nothing. It's so random. Kind of totally got out of the habit of getting even lead that I just don't plan for it anymore. It just ruins my day.
Right. Yeah, that's a great call. Lord of the Heavenly Prison is an awesome card. There was one card in particular that I really wanted to talk about and to discuss. But I got distracted by Lord of the Heavenly Prison, and now I don't. Oh, I do remember what it was actually. I just remembered. I want to talk a little bit about Ross Fear Mode.
Oh man, I love that card.
And sure, I say Ross Fear Mode specifically, but I would like to also talk about things like Lava Golem, Kaijus, things of that sort.
I just call the entire archetype of I'm attribute your field to summon this monster as the Kaijus.
Yeah, the entire like idea of it, like the entire concept.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Lava Golem did it first.
Yeah.
But I really think that there's something to that. Especially in a format like I've mentioned where it's all build-a-board type cards.
And usually 3 or more monsters are just kind of sitting there.
Chilling.
Yeah, but it's so random. Every deck is a little different. You can't rely on Sphere Mode specifically being a live card. Like hitting 3 cards is always going to be like an iffy thing. Like Sword Soul often will end on 2 monsters, not 3. The only deck that really hits 3 every time is like the Lyrilisk deck.
Well, Lyrilisk, Phantom Knight usually has at least 3.
Assuming they don't just pop them in the draw phase to scythe you.
Also true. The Drytron deck will do that. I feel like there's Virtual World. Does Virtual World end on 3?
I think the full board does if they have Kaliga plus Crystal Wing plus Shen Shen. But I find they don't usually get full board. Like they end on like Crystal Wing and like M7 sometimes.
Right. I still think it's an interesting choice. I think it's worth exploring.
I just had a hilarious thought. So it is related to what we're talking about. So in Trap Brigade Lyrilisk, you know how they can absolutely OTK you because you left a monster on board in attack mode?
Sure.
So it's like, oh, I have 2 monster in defense mode. Just treated them both off for a Lava Golem, attacking in the Lava Golem for game.
Now that.
Oh, you think they should play it? That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, granted, you have to hard draw the Lava Golem to do that and going second, but it's still hilarious to think about.
It's just always funny when they start using the recital starlings to increase your monster's attack. It just feels weird. Like, something's wrong here. Why are you making my monster bigger?
Yeah, exactly. Because like with Lava Golem, you don't have to worry about that because he's already big enough. And in that particular instance, is if they target a monster with exactly 800 or more attack points.
Right.
Because then at that point, they're trying to boost to get that little bit extra for the OTK.
It's definitely worth noting.
But yeah, attributing to their monster, give them a Lava Golem, just attack into it. And then even if it doesn't kill them, they'll be probably the Lava Golem burn on their standby will finish them off.
So I'd like to take a small moment also to have a little bit of discussion about what we think the end results of this event will be. So, if it's possible, I would love to hear a top 32 prediction from each of us. And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do.
Write it down?
I am. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to get out a piece of paper, and I have a pen here, just so that I can track how many of each of these I've said and like the number of each of these monsters that is, or the number of each of these decks. Now I can like add it up and make sure I have 32. So let me grab a pen and paper. You two keep talking.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like, just real quick, going back to that thing, though, like, the only of the Kaijus, though, the only one that you can't just tribute off and then just attack into for game is literally Raw Sphere mode, because you can't attack into it.
Yeah, you can't target it for attacks. You can't actually attack into it. Actually, my favorite thing about it, which is always funny, is just if people have given it to me before, you can make an Almirage with it because it's a normal summon monster with 1,000 or less attack. And I always play Infernoid, so it's always like funny. So like they give me this level 10 effect monster, like, you can't summon any Infernoids, and then I'm like, it's an Almirage target.
Yeah, it's now Mirage now. Something
Yep.
fun, something funny, something else funny. I always wanted to do is I want to get into a situation where everyone is running raw sphere mode, just so they raw sphere mode and they're like, ha, should be raw sphere mode for Wing Dragon to raw out of my deck.
I've seen it before. It happened at the Nats where Goki Extra Link was a thing because you really needed the sphere mode really badly back then. So it wasn't that crazy for a raw to be in your side deck. I mean, it was probably a bad idea, but I saw it happen once or twice. It was really funny.
Oh yeah, no, just a free. What level are the Egyptian gods? Level 12?
I think
they're
they're
all
level
level 12.
I think they might be 10.
Yeah,
Actually.
just a big old free beat stick.
A big old bungus.
Yeah. Whoop. And your opponent thought they were punishing you, and they just gave you a free beat stick. Let's go.
Yeah, they're level
That
10.
is one way to do it.
Kind of piggybacking off your idea of the, I'm just going to turn into an Out Mirage.
Yeah. I always thought that what's his name, Gardarla, the Wind Kaiju, would have been a little bit more useful, but people kind of moved away from Barrier Statue. Like Lyrillist doesn't even play Wind Barrier Statue anymore.
It's because a lot of decks are maining wind monsters now.
Yeah, there's a Speedroid deck that no one's playing really. That's pretty good though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I mean, Flow Under Ease and then opposing Bird Up decks don't
Well,
run.
Flow Under Ease doesn't special at all, so it's irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like I said, opposing Bird Up decks are also all wind. So what's the point?
Right.
Yeah. And
I
then
personally,
the
my
Bird Up
Bird
deck
Up.
itself is also summoning the Ensemble to kind of like deal with the normal summons anyway.
Its effect only triggers on special summon.
Oh yeah. Well, you kind of have to like out it before doing all the special summons. So like in a sense, it's sort of floodgating special summons. It's like technically a floodgate on special summons in a technical sense.
I get it. It's because it does the bounce as long as it has materials, because it isn't once per turn. And if your opponent for some reason is only doing it once per turn, you essentially can do it forever because exactly of Celestine Wagtail.
You can always just attach itself to an Exe monster.
Yep. I think it specifies it's got to be like a winged beast or something. Hang on, I actually have a copy of it like right here. Nope, it has to be a Lurlusk. It has to be a Lurlusk Exceed. But yeah, you just keep attaching and detaching over and over again.
All right, I'm trying to pull up some like regional top results from like Mcole40's channel. He posts like some lists here and there just to get some ideas for some other decks that people might actually bring up.
Yeah.
Like there have been a couple.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, you wrote down your whole top 32 already? Okay.
Yeah, sure. I'll write my down. I'll write my down real quick while you do that.
I mean, I just have a general breakdown of what I think my top 32 will be. I've been kind of thinking about it while you two talk amongst yourselves. But I'm gonna wait until you two also have your top 32 before I say mine.
Y'all two talk while I come up with mine then.
All right. Now I gotta like make up some numbers also for what would make sense. All right, like 32 PK.
Yeah. Listen. There should be 32 PK decks. Okay, just trust.
Yes, this seems to be the way it works, right?
Look, there's like 4 pure dangers. 1 math mech.
2 Marincess.
Right. 1 Thunder Dragon player who will get kicked out in top 16 when they realize he's still playing 2 Colossus.
Let's see. There's like been like some weird Machina decks being played. I don't know if you've seen them.
The pure Machina deck is really funny to me.
Is it like better or worse than Earth Machine is like the thing. I don't really know. I feel like it's similar.
It exists.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's better or worse than pure Earth Machine. The decks struggle in the same place. they don't really put up much of a turn 1 board. So it's like, just if you're gonna play Earth Machine, just go second in OTK. Just play some board breaker cards and understand what you're doing. It's like, oh, cool, my opponent went full combo and their end board is an Infinitrack Harvester. Oh no,
Yeah, that deck always like is weird. It just draws a bunch of cards and then sets like 2 and ends on hand traps, and you don't know exactly what's going on.
right. Do you think that this event in particular will have any lasting meta impact as far as the upcoming ban list is concerned?
I don't know. I feel like everything that's new hasn't been around long enough to hit, and you're really gonna just hit Phantom Knights, and like what else is like old that's still being played? Invoked. Um, Invoked
Hey,
Phantom
well, you said
Knights.
invoked, and I realized I needed to edit my list because I forgot a deck.
I didn't.
Well, yeah, we're talking about it. Of course, you didn't forget to put it on your list.
Oh, no, it's on here already before y'all even said it.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, time to cut some rogue decks from my list.
Well, I'm just throwing a bunch of random decks I've seen that have been topping here and there.
Oh, I just have an other section that's like, it's like one of this, one of this, one of this.
Yeah, but I listed out what my one ofs are.
I ain't doing that.
You're like, I have 12 others.
8 actually.
I have 8 decks that are just whatever I want them to be. I reserve the right to get everything else right. And when I didn't call the 8 correct, I said other. I've got it right.
Technically 9, but I'm being very specific about one of them.
Oh, okay. I know what deck that is already, but
No, you don't.
definitely Madolche.
No, it's not.
It's definitely scribbles on the list.
Goes to mess with the list.
Give me the pen back. I'm actually going to make changes to my list now.
Oh, okay. This is going to be interesting.
So this won't be there. I'm going to cut this down. I'm going to cut that down. So that goes to that. That goes to that.
Anyone have a list?
Oh, yes, my list is ready. I'll go ahead and, while Sonny's doing his edits, I'll go ahead and read out mine. So I'm thinking we're going to have about 7 Bird Ups, 6 Sword Soul, 4 Drytron, 3 Tri Brigade. That's non-Lyrilisk variants. So
Pure Tri Brigade.
Pure Tri Brigade and all its variants. 3 Elditch, 1 Madolche, and then like 8 of like
whatever
else. And various invoked decks, various. Because, now Invoked is more than just Shadal Dogmatica, which is crazy. MIT, the Machina deck, stuff like that. Just random other little one-ofs. You might even see like a random Pure Lyrilisk in there somewhere.
Yeah,
I have Pure
I haven't
Lyrilisk
really
on my
seen
list.
I haven't seen the Pure Lyrilisk in a while. I think I've seen one list ever.
I've seen a couple.
I had it in my top, but I cut it. Okay. I finished mine. I'm going to do mine last, though, because mine's a little weird. So,
Fair.
Benji, if you have yours, I will let you go ahead and say yours.
Yeah, I've got like 9 Phantom Knight, 9 Sword Soul, a couple of Striker with DPE, maybe 1 or 2 Virtual World, 1 or 2 Tri Brigade, like regular Tri Brigade with maybe DPE in them. Maybe a Floowandereeze, some Invoked, and then I feel like every tournament's had like one generally random like control deck. Like I've seen like an Orcus list just like make it with just like a bunch of traps in it. I don't know. Some random trap control deck, could be Eldritch, could be anything.
So mine is really diverse. I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different decks topping. I have 6 Sword Soul, 6 Bird Up, 3 PK, 2 Drytron, 2 Virtual World, 2 Pure Tri Brigade, 1 Madolche, because I really think that deck is actually kind of good, and I'm confident that somebody will use that Lost World list to actually make some waves. 1 Fluffle, because I have confidence in Giant Skyhawk specifically. 2 Eldritch, 1 Sky Striker, 1 Machina Infinitrack, because I do not think that deck is good, but I think somebody will get lucky. 1 Fluanderese and 3 Dogmatic Invoke Shadal.
Interesting.
I mean, it's a list. It's a very specific list that I'm going to save this piece of paper to see how close I get, because I'm actually really interested to see how close I can get.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing to talk about at the end of the, whenever we cut to top 32 of this.
Oh, we'll all be wrong. It'll just be that Crooked Cook Exodia deck, and
Don't do this to me.
Do not
Not like these.
will this into existence.
I
Do you
mean, yeah, I guess that won't work. Someone will cheat and just grab a kaiju and say, "Hey, I have a kaiju."
Yeah.
Reach off to the side. Wow, I'm so glad that I had this the entire time.
Conveniently on my deck list, no one check.
No deck checks, please.
Hold on. Pulls just starts looking through like their tents and stuff. Hold on, it's right here somewhere. Denko Seka?
Yeah. Don't say that too loud. That's happened.
I know.
All right. Well, I think that'll wrap us up for podcast discussion. I mean, for podcast. Wow. For YCS discussion. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating. What I do want us to do, though, before we leave, is the podcast question of the day.
Yeah, boy.
So the podcast question day last time was, what is your favorite set release from the last year? So I'm just going to rattle off the answers because we actually had quite a few answers. So thank you, everybody, for that answered. We have Lightning Overdrive. That's cool, of course. The Megatons and Max Gold. Synchro Storm, Burst of Destiny, Max Gold and Burst of Destiny. Nothing was too impactful for me. I'm just going to say there was a lot of impactful stuff released this year. Brothers of Legend, Dawn of Majesty. New starter stuff is pretty cool. Max Gold. It is a lot of cool collector stuff in there. Brothers of Legend, more Burst of Destiny, more Burst of Destiny. The Megatons, more Burst of Destiny. Eternity Code is a weird pick for a set release this year, as is Phantom Rage. That's interesting. Burst of Destiny, more Burst of Destiny. You know, I'm getting the feeling that people liked Burst of Destiny.
Well, it's finally the set that actually brought new archetypes out there, and I mean, like, I'm not really playing new decks, but the only card that I'm really playing from this year is DPE.
Right.
That's fair.
In the Discord server, we have a couple of people saying Max Gold. We have a Synchro Storm. Every set released in the last year, including Genesis Impact at the end of 2020. Fair. So this one has a long story that goes with it, but Synchro Storm was the choice. Dawn of Majesty, more Synchro Storm, and the one answer, King's Court. I gotta say, I love the King's Court pick. That set was sneakily very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, Benji, what's your pick from favorite set release of the last year?
I don't know. Like I mentioned, the only card I really have been playing that was like printed in the past year is DPE. I guess Lightning Storms are in King's Court, and I did pick those up. But for the most part, all the really good cards came out last year. In like Phantom Rage and Rise of the Duelist.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I guess just based on new cards, it has to be Burst of Destiny, because a lot of other things are just mostly reprints. These recent sets have been pretty good. There's a lot to actually purchase. Like if you wanted a specific like high value card in every set, there's like something to pull. Between Synchro Storm, Brothers, and Burst. Is there something else to buy right now that's out?
Synchro Storm, Burst of Destiny, Brothers of Legend, and Max Gold. And maybe you can still find some Megatons.
Oh, I have 2 cases I haven't opened and can't get rid of.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Those were really hot on release.
Yeah, they were. I was hoping people would like Designator more.
Diamond Hands, hold.
Yeah.
Well, the new podcast question today is, what deck do you think will win the YCS? I'm making my call now. I think it's Bird Up.
Yeah, I'm thinking Bird Up will also win.
Yeah, I can get on board with Birds. I don't really think it's going to come. It might be Sword Soul, but probably Birds.
In my opinion, it's going to be a coin flip between Bird and Sword Soul.
Yeah. So I'll officially take Sword Soul. I mean, shoot. dang it. I was thinking about it. I will officially take Bird up as my pick to win the YCS, even though we won't have an actual answer for what won until January 22nd or 23rd.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
sure.
that must be an awful feeling to have to like play the same deck if you're not happy with it after a couple of weeks, like that happened in the previous YCS.
Yeah.
Oh, what's even worse is that there's going to be a ban list in between this YCS and the finals of the next one. Like in the this YCS is going to happen this weekend, and then the ban list is no sooner than January 17th, and then you'll have the playoffs for this YCS happening in the next format.
Yep.
That's kind of gross.
All that time just to make sure everyone gets their camera setups to look nice on stream, right?
Yep.
Right. Well, that'll wrap us up for today's episode. Benji, where can people find your awesome content? Which, by the way, I didn't say that earlier. I think that the Legacy Crusaders YouTube channel is one of the most helpful and informative channels that there is, especially for newer and returning players, which we have a lot of in our listener base. I cannot describe enough how important and impactful that is for a returning player to be able to just sit down, watch a few matches of an important meta deck or whatever deck is on that day. It'll be relevant. To be able to sit down and watch those and understand what's happening with that deck is crucial. So, Benji, where can people find you and your content?
You can find me at youtube.com/Legacy Crusaders, and you should see new uploads maybe once a week, hopefully, when things get back on track for me. You can find me on Twitter. I think it's twitter.com/Legacy Crusaders. And yeah, if you want to play some duels, come to the Top Cut Discord. That's usually the Discord I'm in the most.
Hey, love to hear it. So, thank you everybody for listening. Be sure to leave us a review on Apple if you are on an Apple device listening on the Apple Podcasts player. Be sure to follow us on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're listening. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Top Cut Podcast. Be sure to check out our Patreon if that's something that you're into. Check out our Discord. The link will be in the description below for that. Check out Team Dark Arm Dealings. They are our sister channel on YouTube, and they provide event coverage of the events that we go to. And of course, once again, check out our sponsor, ETB Games. Their link will be in the description below. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening, and have a wonderful day.
Take care, everyone.
Later.